Hello, everybody. This is Blippity Blop from the Deplorable Batcave podcast. And tonight we shall be discussing relevant issues from the week. And I think the first topic that we have on the agenda will be the Ninth Circuit. So, without further ado, we'll introduce some of the other fellow deplorables, which include Concerned Commoner.
Yep, that's me.
It's Uncle Up.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Spartacus.
Fear me, bourgeoisie. I'm sorry, I'm not a communist.
And our host, CUL.
Hello. Insert that one clip of communist faggot here. What, did you miss that from Sargon? Moving along.
So, as the non-American limey scum, I'm the least qualified to actually begin this matter.
To be fair, you're more qualified than most Americans at this point.
At this point, I think he's better.
But
That's
American law is heavily based on English law and common law, so at the very least, Blippy should be able to keep up and understand. So he can also give us the English perspective.
Plus, I believe he's 10 to 15 years older than everybody else. So,
Give or take several decades. If you'd like to start us off, Sewell, seeing as I believe you probably have the most information of us tonight on this matter.
That's a very worrying sign, but okay. Today, February the 9th, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decided to uphold the temporary restraining order against Trump's temporary immigration ban. More specifically, it should be called a temporary immigration halt from 7 Muslim-majority nations. The list was created by Barack Obama, we would like to stress. These nations are known for the creation of terrorists under the Obama administration at the very least. But unfortunately, because a lot of intel is classified, I can't confirm or deny. But common sense says probably. So.
But maybe we sort of get to the meat and potatoes of this matter, is that there's been so much emotionally charged antipathy towards this particular suspension. Indeed, it's been labelled as a Muslim ban.
Well, the biggest problem with that argument...
And I've crashed.
Oh. Well,
You're going to have to carry on without me for the next few minutes. I'll be back shortly.
Of course. I think I can continue it from here. From what I know, in the order itself, it does not once reference the religion of Islam, only the 7 specific nations, and that they are hotbeds of terrorism at the moment. From what I understand about the original lawsuit, it was brought on behalf of the American people by 2 states. I believe Washington for sure, but I'm unsure of the second state. It wasn't Illinois, it was another state, I can't remember, but they're claiming that this bill will cause irreparable harm. This executive action will cause irreparable harm to the nation. Which I don't know how that can happen, but yeah. So, any other thoughts, guys? Oh, and another thing, from what I understand, the specific wording is they were worried about those that had already been confirmed for visas that would get caught over there, so a small subset. The initial judgment has been against the entire order, though, which
Minnesota was the second state.
Minnesota, thank you, Art. But the odd part of it is he blocked the entire order, but the original lawsuit was only covering a very small subset of the people affected, so it's a little weird with what's going on. I'm not a legal expert. I don't know all that stuff, but yeah.
Based on that, it sounds like political grandstanding more than actually trying to uphold any law.
Yes, that's one option. And this judge in Seattle, I believe, has been known to be an activist judge in the past.
Seattle, that says a lot right there.
Yeah. Also, there is an expression that I would like to familiarize everyone with, which I assume you're all already familiar with, but if you're not, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. He shut down the entire executive order over an extremely small part of it.
So the next step would be to take it to the Supreme Court.
No, actually, this was not a law. This was a pre-trial restraining order, from what I understand. It was made by the judge because the lawyer said this is irreparable harm. We have to stop it now. It hasn't even gone to trial yet. Arguments haven't been heard. Evidence hasn't really been logged in. It is a lot of conjecture, but this is more political grandstanding than anything.
I don't understand how two judges from two different states can stop the rest of the states from upholding the law.
Because they're federal judges, not state judges.
Okay.
It's federal court. It's just they're based
Federal
in states, obviously.
Mm-hmm. So that helps that out.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, points from Smart or Anthony? Anything on your end about this?
I think this is probably going to be pursued until it gets to
Anthony, you
the
may have to close
Supreme
some
Court.
tabs, brother.
Yeah, you're a little robot-y, Anthony.
You can hear me?
Yeah, but it's extremely robot-y. Spart, Anthony, why don't you work on that? And Spart, what are your thoughts?
At this point, I'm not entirely. I mean, again, the fact it's coming from Seattle doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Considering, how Seattle's so blue, it's pretty much navy.
Yes.
But on top of that, this just seems like an opportunistic liberal judge trying to throw his weight around just because he can.
Yeah. And, well, they're trying to say that some are trying to say he's not a liberal judge because he was brought in by Bush, but he was bipartisan supported, so take that as you will. And, I might be a conservative, but I'm not a fan of Bush.
Not many people are.
Yeah.
Not many people are. Wouldn't Bush be the Bush, Clinton, Obama be like the same family, just on different sides of the aisle?
So, can you hear me now?
Yes, you're a lot clearer, Anthony. It looks like it was just some sort of temporary.
For someone to be a Bush appointee, it would feel fitting that he would fit so well inside of Obama or Obama.
At least in regards to the current situation, I think this chain of appeals is probably going to be pursued up until the Supreme Court. I don't see Trump just letting this down.
Oh, hell no.
No, he's a fighter.
At the same time, I don't think the ban is long enough for that kind of court fight.
Well, the thing is, if it's suspended while this is going on, that means it's paused. Once that pause is lifted, it resumes from the time it stops.
Well, and of course, if it's already after the danger has passed or something else has come up, what we could potentially see is the next day, Trump just writes an executive action saying, ignore this executive action. He literally gets rid of it with a stroke of a pen because it's no longer relevant. But I will admit that the executive order wasn't as well written as it could have been. From what I understand, it has a couple of holes in it. One of them was, what about the people who are on aircraft as the order was being signed into action? They were in an unfortunate legal gray area for a couple of hours. But the federal judge said, if you were already on a plane en route, out of control, we're going to go with the pre-existing law before this was written. And guess what? They're in America, no problem. They were unfortunately inconvenienced for a few hours.
Wasn't that milked for all it was worth?
Oh, of course. And they actually tried to talk to one of them and said, you know what, I actually kind of like Trump. And it's like, whatever. I was held in the room for a couple hours with nothing to read. Oh, the humanity. That kind of stuff.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
I mean, Blippity, do we need to call the Hague? Do we need to bring Trump up for crimes against humanity because some people had to sit in a room for a few hours?
I think
put him in the Hague.
And not a large number of people either.
I think there was talk where there were elderly people that may have got stopped that might have needed medical attention in certain regards.
It was a lie. That was a lie. The one, come to find out, the guy that said his mother died in transit, his mother actually died 5 days before.
Yeah. Also, under
maybe it was in anticipation of this decision.
Yeah, but actually, under U.S. law, from what I understand, when it comes to law enforcement, when somebody is in your care, they are. When someone's when you've detained someone, they're under your care. You have to make sure they're fed, clothed, sheltered, and getting medical attention that they need. If somebody were to suddenly have a heart attack while in the situation, they would have brought in EMTs, and all that would have happened is while they were at the hospital, they would have just been handcuffed to the bed. That's it. They would have gotten medical attention. And actually, they probably would have been slightly better off than just somebody walking amongst the crowd, because you've got 2 law enforcement personnel, and a lot of law enforcement personnel, from what I understand, are required to have at least some knowledge of emergency medicine. So, at the end of the day, it's a wash. They would have gotten medical attention anyway.
Right, so this was...
it's a non-issue.
Yeah.
It's not
So
it's not even a molehill. That's how small it is.
So that's in regards to the short-term.
Yeah, that was for about 200 people that
issues.
were in transit.
So any implications of what people would consider long-term issues insofar as this policy is perceived by the general public? Any thoughts on the floor?
I have one question on this, actually. And that's this. If there's clear and present danger now, and there's legal wranglings that takes, X amount of time, theoretically, it could get to the point where, and this is theoretical, these countries are no longer the danger they posed at this point. Mm-hmm. And to impose that that order at that point, let's say it's 8 months down the line or something like that, however long it takes to get through this, it would be unnecessary at best.
Flippity. The thing is, this is an executive action. It's not It's not done by the legislator and then signed by the president. So he could get rid of it literally 5 minutes after it comes back online, and no one's affected. He can get rid of it with a stroke of a pen.
Let's be honest about it, though. If Obama been targeted these countries, I don't think within the next, let's say, 6 to 7 years that those countries will be removed off the list.
No. It was a theoretical question, and I'm getting a specific point with it. So let's say 8 months down the line, the legal wranglings are cleared, and the decision can go through. But it's no longer required. Now, obviously, you can't enact it then, because then it will look heavy-handed. It would look totally unnecessary, and this whole thing would be a terrible blow to, not only the authority of the president and that of what could have been potentially very dangerous times. Future orders will be blocked for political gain, to make the president as ineffectual as possible, even at the cost of the safety of the country, just to make sure that he's powerless. Because once the legal wranglings go through, the necessity for those orders may no longer be relevant.
Well, here's the thing, though. This case is probably going to set precedent, and the reason why I say that is because it could inadvertently, depending on what the judgment is in the end at the Supreme Court level, which I think more than likely going to go for Trump, it could actually get rid of 1182, a 1952 law that does a lot of stuff with immigration, including barring certain people for medical reasons. Like if people have communicable diseases, they don't have a right to come here. They need to be dealt with before they come here, or have certain plans to have it dealt with.
Right.
And the law specifically says in this one section, section F, it's called suspension of entry or imposing of restriction by president. Whenever the president finds that entry of any aliens or any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation for such period, as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restriction he may deem appropriate. Whenever the Attorney General finds that a commercial airline has failed to comply with regulations of the Attorney General relating to requirements of airlines for the detection of fraudulent documents used by passengers traveling to the United States, including the training of personnel in such detection, the Attorney General may suspend the entry of some or all aliens transported to the United States by such an airline. It's a very clear law. The President has this power, and to my knowledge, the U.S. Constitution doesn't specifically say who has this power. This law says who does. And one of the arguments they're making is that this is discriminatory because of religion, race, nationality, all this stuff. Problem is, discrimination laws in the United States only affect U.S. citizens and permanent residents, to my knowledge.
Well, okay, discrimination based on that. Isn't that the point? Nationality. Isn't that the bloody point?
Yeah, these nations are known for producing terrorists, and it's notoriously hard to vet people from these regions because there's not a lot of background documentation that we can rely on that we need to confirm people.
You don't want to hurt people's feelings. And besides which, if you do not let these people in, they will kill you.
But what if we do let them in, and doesn't that mean they already have the thoughts of killing us?
And if you don't let them in, the ones that do want to kill you will recruit those people that wanted to get in, and because you turned them away, they will kill you.
So just submit.
Well, actually, remember, according to the liberal media, that if we refuse them entry in the United States, they'll become terrorists immediately.
That makes me just think that, you know what? It's time to quarantine this entire region. Build a wall around the Middle East.
Oh, they won't let me in the United States. That means jihad!
Boom.
That's so racist.
Yes, I know.
Hey, that's not racist. Because it's a religion. And last time I checked...
Still racist.
And last time I checked, a religion is not a race.
You do know that Islam is one of those protected minority groups by the left. So
the left is consuming itself and losing relevancy faster than the supplies at a buffet at a Weight Watchers convention.
I don't want to throw it off topic too far, but how does feminism and Islam work together?
They're both totalitarian ideologies that hate Western men.
Well, Western democracy, capitalism, and Christianity. You know.
And men.
Everything that gives them the ability to practice their respective ideas freely.
Hate it. Copy.
Anyway, so
feminism is a religion of peace.
Behead those who insult feminism.
Yes.
Stone those.
It's very weird that the left has kind of go onto this other track. It is weird that the left is putting something at the top of their little oppression hierarchy that has been the most oppressive ideology humanity has ever seen.
Well, outside of
does anyone want to venture
outside of what? Outside of the pushback of Christianity?
Well, no, actually, I'm probably going to say outside of maybe communism.
Well,
I don't know.
Last time I checked,
as
communism only enslaved people. It didn't also castrate them to make sure that they couldn't breed.
Well, no, at least communism had the decency just to outright kill you.
Yes.
Well, it'll send you to a gulag. I have a question, though. I mean, if it gives Islam this free pass more than anything else, the question is why?
Because my melanin.
No.
But why that melanin more than other melanin? That doesn't really answer the question.
I guess it's the progressive regression of the left. But they just looking for a fight.
Well, the thing
But
is,
why this particular one?
because they're collectivists, and they say Muslims are all brown people, so therefore they're oppressed as a religion. They're oppressed as a brown-skinned minority, so therefore they're super oppressed.
I guess because the radical elements of this religion that was left is one of the few religions that have such radical ideologies that they kind of latched on to them.
It's not that really. It is so far flung from.
It's where else could if you wanted to. Go ahead, Blippy. I'm sorry.
Well, what I was going to say was that all the hatred that's spewed towards the West in the Islamic world, these are all the things that are still practiced. So, women being second-class citizens, gays being thrown from tops of buildings,
Taharush actually being a thing. Yeah. Oh, just so you know, the literal translation is the rape game.
The rape game. Yeah. This, you talk about rape culture. It's there, right in front of you. So again, the question still stands: why this religion? Why is this accorded?
Here's a bit of a theory.
Protection.
Here's a bit of a theory that I have as to maybe why. The reason why I think maybe they believe this is because the Christians fought the Muslims back in the day, and well, the Christians. The Crusades is a mess. I mean, you're probably better educated on the Crusades than me. It was a mess. There was no clear winner in the end.
Absolutely, but the start of the Crusades was a pushback from Islam.
Yeah. And they have an odd hatred for
Christianity
Western religions.
Okay, well, I can.
Christianity had the moral high ground, which the left is always trying to take now. The so-called moral high ground.
Okay, well, if you're going to go with that logic, then by extension, in post-Reformation, Enlightenment period of Christianity, particularly what led to things like colonialism, you had many other religions that were swamped and exploited by Western Christian countries. Why do they not get that same level of protection?
Because
what about India? What about China? What about all these various other countries and religions?
Because they're successful when they're in the Western nations. I mean, look at somebody from India in the West or someone from China in the West. They, on average, will actually make more than their white peers.
Okay. Then what about Saudi Arabia, Qatar? Various.
They're mostly only successful.
Why you wouldn't put? See, I don't understand your question. I'm sorry. Why you wouldn't put them on the list?
No. Why does Islam get the top the top placement when there are other countries that have been exploited?
Maybe it's because of the Bush years.
Actually, I have another potential theory. I'm going to go and see. I'm going to try to see if I can find some data to back this up. But my personal theory is because somebody from a Muslim country and put them in a Western nation, comparatively, they don't do as well as someone from China or India or wherever.
Yeah,
not true. Not true.
As, in comparison to them, I'm not saying in comparison to anything else. I'm just saying, in comparison to
do pretty well.
Well, I mean, it might be more simple. It might just be the Bush years, and because you know how the left hated Bush and everything he did.
The only other theory I can possibly posit is that at this point, feminism is pretty much just a communist movement, and since both communism and Islam hate the capitalist West, that natural allies, useful idiots, basically.
And that's likely too. I think it's a combination of several factors in the end. We can't really pin it down to one.
It's a lot. Okay. It's definitely a lot.
But is that assertion perhaps wrong? Because they do seem to have that. What did you call it, Uncle? A pass above all others.
Now, I need Anthony help with this one, but Islam, their mainstream introduction in America was around the Nation of Islam time when they was introducing it as the religion for black people's religion. So that's another reason why it's so friendly with the left.
Oh, it ticks so many different boxes. Is that what you mean, Uncle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting point.
Hey, especially the American black man, not just the worldly, different countries. So,
but isn't the major religious denomination of African Americans centered around various branches of Christianity?
Usually Protestants.
Yes, Christian, but we were persecuted as a people through Christianity. So it was the small minority making the most noise, i.e. Malcolm X, with this religion to make it so famous, i.e.
Which is
feminism.
highly exploitative, given
in hindsight.
history.
In hindsight, yeah. So that's just another way to look at it from why it fits so well with feminism. And feminism was just another form of civil rights.
Second wave, I can agree. Third and fourth wave, it's just whiny bitches.
Absolutely.
Well, also, don't forget
I'm
about
sorry.
don't
I'm
forget
talking
about
first wave feminism, but I was trying not to give in to the
First wave feminism was entitled white bitches.
I think first wave feminism was accurate, though. I mean,
Uncle Art, do you know some of the history of the suffragettes? That one of them basically said that if black men got the vote before white women, that white women will be raped by black men.
No. But I believe it. That sounds like some ignorant shit.
And also, from what I understand, and if just our audience, Karen Strom is pretty much the expert on this at this point. She knows you have to go a couple years back in her YouTube feeds, but she has great videos on it because the thing is, back in the day, the reason why the suffragettes were having so much trouble getting mainstream support was because of anti-suffragette groups which were run by women. Women were stopping women from getting the vote for a long time until eventually women decided they wanted the vote. That's when it changed.
That's because that shit was ignorant to say that if you let black get it, will be raped. Like that was. I guess you could call that early fourth wave feminism. Like this shit just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, but then take into account Uncle Art. Take into account the view towards eugenics, which was prevalent at the time, and
the woman who started Planned Parenthood.
And I crashed again. Fantastic. I'll be back shortly.
Okay. Yeah, but but again, kind of keeping with the Karen Strom side of things, more the honey badgers in general. I think it's Alison Tiemann kind of talks about the feminist wormhole, where basically they take oppression from one group and zoop, somehow it's now about the women being oppressed, even though it's very easy to argue that white middle and upper class women in the West are the most privileged people in human history.
Yeah.
See, I don't know. It could be my perception of history. I assume that the civil rights movement came before women's rights over here in America.
No, women's rights cropped up around the time of what was it? Well, actually, no. It goes back to I think post-Civil War.
Well, it only really got traction and passed around 1920.
20 was the women in the work. I'm talking women in not right to vote, maybe right to vote.
Yeah.
Well, right to vote was considered first wave feminism.
Yeah,
and first wave feminism was when
early 1900s.
Yeah, the 19 teens was pretty much first wave. Roughly 1912-ish, all the way up to
basically.
So what was all of that stuff in the 70s?
That's second wave.
That's second wave.
That was equal pay for equal work.
It was equal pay.
My body, my choice. A lot of that stuff.
Which at the time was perfectly fair. That was a requirement that
Yeah.
they need, which I will not begrudge that ever. But they've had that
Yeah.
for pretty much for going on 50 years.
Yes, the laws are on the books. Can we argue about if the laws have been fully implemented or if they're enforced properly? Yes, but to our knowledge, they have been enforced to the full extent of the law, because if you check, once you account for all of the various variables, it's I think 93 to 97% of what a man makes to what a woman makes. There is a difference about between 3 and 7 cents depending on who you talk to, and every economist that has a computer that says there's no way at this point to calculate it. It's all highly subjective things, like ability to negotiate.
All common sense things.
Well, things you just can't account for statistically. And 3 to 7% when you're talking about these kind of numbers, that is margin for error.
And that's very tight margin for error. So basically, you might as well say it's right on the money.
Well, also they've done some studies that show that women under 30 make more than men under 30 on average.
See, I never wanted to argue that, because the very simple-minded argument is, as a capitalist country, if you can hire a group of people for 70 cents opposed to $1, you will go with 70 cents. That's the problem we have with immigration. That's the reason why we don't want immigration, because they'll work for cheaper money, and that messes everybody up.
Well, also that's why one of the reasons why minimum wage came in back in the day. It was to, funnily enough, prevent blacks from getting work, because they were willing to undercut white workers.
Mm-hmm. So it just makes absolutely no sense that you will accept that money and actually do the same work. And then it wouldn't be any men in the workplace in our country. It just wouldn't.
Of course, men would have to be willing to work for less. But I mean, with every law that they put in place that gives women certain advantages, like paid maternity leave, companies are forced, or sometimes even companies potentially can be forced to pay more. You're just going to make women unemployable in the West. That's all you're going to do. Because they're going to be more expensive than their male counterparts. You actually are making the problem,
but
in the reverse.
You sound like a true misogynist, but keep them pregnant in the kitchen, man.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't remember the name of this feminist, but she was a second waver, very moderate for a second waver, too. She believed that the best way for a woman to have both a family and a career is, in college, meet a nice guy, do a little bit of work for a couple of years, get married, have your kids when you're young, and then pick up your career from an earlier point after a decade or when your kids are going to school, and then figure out the balance from there. When your kids are getting more independent, pick up your career then when you're in your 30s. Yes, you won't be able to get as far as your male partner, but you will still be able to have that career and see if you like it or not.
Which is
terribly patriarchal.
But now with third and fourth wave feminism, Superwoman can do it all. They can have the family, they can have the career.
Yeah, but women are more and more miserable by the year. That show women are getting more miserable.
You don't have to prove that to me. You have to prove that to the raging feminists that's screaming at us when we.
Well, there's the proof. That is the proof.
Yeah.
They literally have nothing else to bitch at except their own feelings and wants.
And I don't have a lot of the numbers, but for this. But again, a while ago, I know I hate having to say this, but watched a YouTube video with one of the guys, and they had they were showing somebody that basically were talking about a paper that said it was a paper, just a situation that it's actually better if one of the spouses does more at-home work and maybe parents some part-time work for supplemental income, and then one partner focuses on work rather than having two people equally dividing the home labor and the out-of-home labor, because then you're gonna stress people and somebody can't specialize at that point. Because if you can have one partner, let's say you can have two partners, they can make $50,000 a year, but they have to work full time, and that means they got to put their kids in daycare, which costs, let's say, $20,000 a year or whatever.
That's more than a lot of people make annual income.
Yeah, but I'm saying $50,000 a year for each one. Now changes, but there's this other family, almost identical. One partner stays home, and maybe does part-time on the weekends or whatever. So, but let's say zero income from themselves. But they got rid of the $20,000 a year daycare costs, And the
You
other
lose
partner
$30,000 worth of
but
income
here,
still.
the other person is able to focus on their career and get to $100,000 quickly. And now they have the same amount of money, and they're not spending as much. They actually saved $20,000 a year because one person they both specialized.
Extremely subjective market.
True.
It's a whole
I know.
lot that.
But
accounts.
it's a thought
Yes, sir.
experiment. It's a thought
Yes, sir.
experiment that
Yes, sir.
could be very likely. I mean, look at. Yes, cost of living has gone up, but there are a lot of factors that could be into that, including just people are focusing on urban cities. If we were to get people to move out of the urban centers and spread the population out, that would drop the costs, as well as fixing some of the issues we have in the workplaces, like just overpaying for labor.
Overpaying for higher positions.
Yeah.
I understand that the higher position should be compensated well, but the disparity between some of the higher positions and the lower working positions, the more numerous working positions, is just too great.
Do you know what actually
current
caused
tax
that?
plan.
Do you know what actually caused that?
No, I don't.
Government
Enlighten me.
interference. The government said all publicly traded companies had to publicize what they paid their CEOs, including bonuses. At that time, I think the ratio was something like they were paid 50 times the average wage of a worker. Then, overnight, that went to 200 or 300 times, because now every CEO can say, hey, that similar company is paying, that smaller company that does the same thing as us is paying him twice what you're paying me. You should pay me more. And it became a massive contest between all the CEOs. Because they know what the other guys were being paid. Because before, that was all confidential information. NDA, you couldn't talk about what you're being paid.
Seawall,
Mhm.
Can I make a point with regards to what you were saying about one parent staying at home, the other parents?
Yeah. It's a thought experiment possibility.
Yeah.
It's
I've got something to add to that. It's anecdotal. It's based on my own opinion, my own observations. I don't have the evidence to back it up, but
Yeah.
I just want to throw it around here.
Well,
and
it's your lived
see
experience, so
what
you should totally talk about it.
Well, even in the case where the $50,000 isn't going to lead to $100,000, even if the person is earning much less, I think that is a sacrifice that's made for a healthier environment for children to grow up in. And we look at what divorce rates are now, where you have both sets of parents, both parents working.
Mm-hmm.
There's higher tension, there's higher
Financial
levels.
instability as well, especially if one spouse loses their job.
Okay, that aspect of it, even if there isn't.
I currently hold. If me or my lady lose our job, how will we go forward? And we don't have any children.
Yeah.
It's a very high stress atmosphere. But when one parent has that responsibility to be there for the children as the primary caregiver, I think there's a certain security in that aspect.
Well, also, a secondary job of looking after the children is not. You don't have to look after the spouse's mental well-being, but you can be that nice anchor, the person to talk to about your stressful day at work, or just to talk to. It's somebody you can trust, whom you have in a sense, the ultimate bond. You have beings in the world that share both of your bloods.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's like this nice. You can go home, where the family is not stressed and happy, and you can just let it just calm. And
it's worked for millennia.
Well, I mean, poorer families, the woman has also worked outside of the home, but they usually work significantly less because they still worry about the kids.
Right.
So.
No, I think we're on the same page here. My overall point was that this is a healthier setup.
People do claim that the economy, it's the modern economy, we have to change the family structure. Problem is, we've had pretty serious crashes in the economy in the past, probably worse than we've ever imagined here, and we've still been able to move forward. I mean, what was it? The East India Company employed a fifth of the world population, and it went under, and we didn't see massive destruction of civilizations. It just broke apart, multiple companies formed, and it moved on.
People were way more self-sufficient also.
Well, I think part of it's due to the less existence of destroying the nuclear family.
Yeah.
And
that was a Marxist goal, after all.
The destruction of the family, I don't even know where we can pin that to. But it feels like everything we've talked about tonight has part to do with the destruction of the family.
Well, it was Marx. He believed the only way for communism to succeed, or Marxism as it was called at the time, would be that there are no families, that everyone is one big family.
Hunger Games.
Yeah. But the thing is, I've heard the argument that individual families are like little communes. But the thing is, there is something that holds them together that you can't really do society-wide, which is blood. There is something in the human brain that makes us want to protect our children at all cost.
Anthony, you want to add anything?
I think he fell asleep on us.
No doubt. Anthony?
Well, I have a segue for this then.
Okay, let's get on this little two-wheeled thing, nostalgic thing from the 2000s that no one has anymore.
Speaking
the Paul Blart Mobile.
Yeah. Yes.
Of the destruction of the nuclear family, let's talk about Dear White People.
Oh, God. Okay. They are.
Leave me alone. Don't pick on me because I'm black.
No. I'm not picking. You are better. You are much closer to this culture than most of us. Can you give us an insight into the mindset of these people? I'm not saying you have this mindset, but you are closer to it than any of us. Can you give us an idea why the hell this is happening?
Yes, bitter, resentment, uneducation, and misinformation.
Okay.
We have legitimate grievances with we have legitimate grievances with colonialism in America. Reparations weren't truly handed out, and at every step of the way from slavery till now, we have been set back. Immigration itself was used as a tool to hold us back as a people. So a lot of that still comes from that, and I can go in 100 different random places, which I won't let my ADD take me.
Don't chase that rabbit down that rabbit hole, bro. We will never get you out. We don't have enough cable to jump down that rabbit hole to get you.
Yes, so the mindset of these people is I watched your video, but as you guys well know, white people were slaves also.
Well, Art, are you ready to have your mind blown by this?
Bring it.
The writer for the show is white. The show is being written by a guy named Jack Moore.
Okay, then that I'm sorry, Art, we picked the wrong person. We got to now switch to who here has the most white guilt?
White guilt? Yes. Could it also be a way to keep more like the way to keep us divided, to keep us from coming together?
I don't think it's necessarily that. I think that because this guy actually tweeted out on November 8th at 9:30 and at 9:00 p.m. Guess the significance of that date. He tweeted out, "Fuck white people." This is the guy writing the show, and he's white.
Yeah. Well, then, I mean,
this is nothing but white guilt. This isn't division. He honestly believes that
would that be cultural appropriation? Like, he shouldn't even be able to talk like. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, Art does have a point with the side from the black culture, for lack of a more accurate term, unfortunately. But that side of the thing influences the white guilt because he, for whatever reason, feels the white guilt. Yes, I think we can all admit that how the blacks have been treated in America throughout history has been pretty much a pretty crappy raw deal.
The sad thing is, most of it was done by the left.
Exactly, and
The
it's
Democratic
still the
Party.
left, and it's
Yeah.
still the left, the liberal white dude.
Evil Republicans, evil conservatives.
It's ugly.
Yeah.
I was trying to make a point where blacks and white were slaves at one point together in this country.
Oh, yeah.
Go
Well,
back
they were
to the
also
urban
slaves
and
plantations.
it was a big settlement of them over 100 of each that fought together against their slave owners,
Yeah.
and their slave owners decided to, if we're just gonna make slaves of the blacks, and then we're going to free the whites but keep them poor and keep them divided, so at least they'll be able to say I'm not black, and that was a way to keep us from fighting together, truly fighting together. I think that's still going on today.
Well, also,
It's very exploitative.
Everyone says, "Oh, slavery was horrible." Which region of the world decided that slavery was bad and tried to end it worldwide at great expense to itself?
The West,
Well, more specifically, Britain.
the West, yeah, the
More
West,
specifically, Britain. The Portuguese were more than happy to continue with it.
And pretty much everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean,
On the
very famously,
The rest
am I
of the
not
planet.
am I not a brother and a man?
Yeah.
The thing is, though, is that
Well, actually,
I can't help but see a cynical side to this as well. Is that when it comes to TV and the media and getting views and getting clicks and whatever it might be, is it also not because this is a fashionable trend?
Yes.
Yes. The
Yes.
whites are the only real group in America that you can be racist against right now.
Well, I mean,
it's not necessarily. I mean, you have a point, Bob, but it's not just a fashionable trend. They actually believe this. They worship at this altar.
yeah, I can see that, but is it not that, I don't know, if you're a...
It's almost like a religious fashion statement. It's like it's basically
You have a production company and you want to remain popular. You want to make it big. If you have views that oppose this, it's not stand to reason that if you're not very principled, that you would,
Mark Twain, the patriot is a scorned man, hated and feared, and such, and whatever. Time comes when he's.
that quote is totally recognizable now.
I'm sorry, but Mark Twain quote, is that where it's just uncool if it. I don't know what you guys do on a trail. You're trailblazing here, saying it's white power.
Here's
once again.
Well, basically, what I mean.
Don't be afraid of it. Don't be ashamed of it.
What came to mind when you said that it was fashionable, WAP, and I combined that with what I said about it being like almost a dogmatic religion at this point. This is this kind of thing right here is basically the white man's hijab.
To try and kind of get things on a slightly different but parallel track, there is something similar track. Slowly, the left, I've noticed this bit and piece, that Asians are slowly especially the Japanese and the Koreans and even the Chinese, are slowly being considered white. There was a story about this one kid, he valedictorian, way above 4.0, very good SAT scores. He applied to every Ivy League school, wasn't allowed into one of them. And he was considered a very, very smart guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the consequence?
And he's Asian. He believes that the reason why he wasn't brought in was because Asians are too successful. They wanted more blacks and Hispanics on campus. Affirmative action.
So he's somewhat low in the oppression Olympics.
Yeah, basically Asians are eventually going to be seen as the new white people.
I heard that same argument. I have.
Honorary areas.
I seen it was the Asian dude on Tucker Carlson show that was making that same point.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that affirmative action might be the most damaging thing this country has done to itself in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, there was a
in principle it works, and during the time it was a real grievance. But now I think it should have been like a time. It should be like a time limit. Like it
maybe
should
a generation, 20 years.
they
Maybe
would
20
start to
years kind of
expire. No, 100 years. What has been now?
Well, no.
50,
Affirmative
60
action was
years?
put in place, I think, under Nixon.
In the what? The 60s,
60s
40s,
or 70s,
50s,
yeah.
60s to 70s. So we maybe another 10 years of it, and then the issue.
Well, no. It's
But
backfiring
wait,
right now.
here's the issue. Here's the issue with that, though, is that you've got to take into account how it runs in parallel with contemporary societal perceptions. And at the moment, things are absolutely loopy.
Yeah. Well, also, I think Larry Elder has said it best. I mean, I could be misattributing paraphrases to people, but he is saying that affirmative action is screwing the black community out of education because they're being sent to universities that they can't compete at because these universities want more black people, so they're lowering the standards to get them in. The better option would be for them to go to a lower tier school where they can compete, and then the next generation, their kids, are better prepared for the college experience, so they could potentially go to the higher tier schools. Kind of a long-term, let's build it up mentality.
Which
They're
is
being
supposedly
mismatched. Because what is it? It's a 60 or 70% dropout rate.
The argument
blacks
with
at
that,
these
the
universities?
argument to that, what was that? I'm sorry.
There's something like a 60 or 70% dropout rate for most black students in the university right now.
Man, it's probably higher than that in just general education.
Actually, no. I think the dropout rate for whites is about 40%. Have a good night, Anthony.
Good night, bro.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Told you he fell asleep on us.
Sorry, what were you trying to say, Spot? Spot?
Crap, I lost my train of thought there. Shite.
We had we were talking about affirmative action.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
And drop arrows and
Well, you were saying, Art, that it needs to continue for time. Okay, here's the problem. One, it's been going on for 40, 50 years, and it has come around to bite everybody in the ass. Two, at this point, affirmative action can be can be easily repurposed to basically mean minimum white people. Period.
It has been used in some cases like that.
I mean, it's too easily.
It's actually being used now on today's campuses with safe spaces. That's
Well, again, there you go.
About the same
Anti-white people, it can be used for anti-white people, anti-male, anti-conservative. It's too
Yeah, because
easy.
they still have affirmative action for women, but they're the majority of college goers right now.
here's the issue I have with this. It shouldn't really matter whether it's white people or it's black people. That's not the issue I see. The issue I see is you have a dumbing down of standards.
Yeah,
Now,
that's what I was getting at
If you
earlier.
want to have a nation that is the best at industry leaders in everything you can think of, you want to have the best and the brightest. You want to have a meritocracy.
see.
And if you lower the standards over time, you're going to have people who are not able to get into university.
It's self-destructive.
In hindsight, Blippity, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
And but like you guys said, the West is the only region that looks inward to its own problems and try to rectify those problems. There was major grievances where these type of actions was necessary. We had to take these actions.
Yeah, because when they were
Sure. No,
put in
I'm
place-
not disagreeing with that. What I'm disagreeing is that it gets to a point though where you have to look at, holy crap, we've got a lowering of standards now, and some of our best institutions are becoming laughing stocks.
Yeah,
And
they're
that
gonna
has a
lose
knock-on
world-class
effect.
status.
It's not just about prestige. It's about people being able to do their jobs. You're going to have people entering ranks who can't count. You're going to have people who will enter government positions and will dictate policy, have not a freaking idea of how to handle responsibility.
Well, we've already had that now. I mean, look at how the millennials
Well,
act.
yeah. I mean, look at the UN. Words of violence.
It's going to be an entitled group, like we have, just entitled group. It's hard to argue with these people when they want to take those same institutions that they're already dumbing down and make them free.
Well, your racism, Uncle Art, is really getting to me. I mean, you are now you are questioning doctrine.
Yeah,
Where is it?
I've been known to be extremely anti everything that is just cult personality. I guess it's the ODB
we
I
have
was
to kill the
diagnosed as.
non-believers. Kill the non-believers. That's the peaceful thing to do.
Well, Uncle Art, I'm sorry, but we're going to take away your black card. I'm sorry about that.
No. As I never had one in the first place.
Oh, so you're using the Dr. Ben Carson defense.
Yeah, as an extreme individual, I'm not as tribal. I do get the kinship, but my thing is to try to find like-minded people and we can build together. I don't. If you're not like me mentally, we're not the same people.
I'm gonna make a statement.
Personally,
we are all Americans. We are all in this together. Let's together make a brighter future. Do you like that statement?
That sounds good, but we aren't all in it together though. You know, that there will always be conflict. And some of the conflicts are more egregious than others.
What I mean is, we are all stuck on one landmass next to each other. If something bad happens in one area, it can spill over into others.
It just wipe everybody out. But we like Islam really still owns slaves, and as a
what is it? Qatar used effectively slave labor to make a museum to show how bad slavery is.
And as a descendant of that so-called culture. I think that, we have major grievances with them. If we need to work on them, something needs to happen because
good luck with
we were once in that place.
The something is, the left says that we have to respect other cultures, regardless of bullshit. You know what? I have to say this objectively. No, some cultures are better than others.
Well, okay. Respect is not something you freely give. Respect is something you earn. These cultures haven't earned my respect. In a lot of cases.
That's racist.
Well, forgive me. I'm about to inject a little bit of levity into this. For example, I can safely say that American culture is better than Canadian culture. Sorry, Canadian listeners. I can prove this. You buy milk in bags, okay?
Is it human milk or cow milk?
Cow milk. They sell them in bags.
It's the same thing.
It's not in a carton. It's in a bag.
Are you, Uncle Art, are you calling Canadian humans cows?
No. I'm just saying we're humans. I don't understand why we drink cow milk.
Actually, just to kind of go on the weird tangent, the reason why we drink cow milk, at least in Western nations, was because of the lack of certain, I think it's nuts, that you find more in Africa and the Middle East. It's why actually people of African and Middle Eastern descent are more likely to be lactose intolerant. That gave them the calcium they needed. Whereas Nordic, the far northern Europeans, your Scandinavians, they didn't have any other option. So they built up an immunity to the lactose by their bodies producing lactates. We're actually one of the few species on the planet that has evolved to be able to consume the milk of another species.
Makes sense.
Also, don't give cream to cats. It's extremely bad for them.
They can drink goat's milk.
And based on my segue, so Netflix is shooting itself in the foot by doing the
it's shooting itself and it's one of a couple 100 feet.
I am going somewhere with this.
Okay.
At the same time, they're giving somebody a show on Netflix that I'm probably going to watch.
Stranger Things?
Guess who's coming back with a brand new show?
Who?
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Oh God. No. I'm sorry. I lost all respect for the man when he said that we should consider arresting locking up anyone who is a quote-unquote climate denier.
Climate change. What the hell?
Do you deny climate change?
Who denies
it's a natural process. We could argue over how much humanity has affected it.
It used to be global warming. Now it's climate change. Now it's man-made climate warming.
But remember, climate change is racist because it affects brown countries more.
Yes. It's also sentient in that it knows how to do that.
I'm sorry, but apparently these brown cultures decide that burning rubber tires for heat is a good idea.
And the best way to fix climate change is to tax you for the shit that you breathe out your mouth.
No, the best way to fix climate change is to protest at an airport.
Well, actually, speaking of climate change, this is actually a tax that actually exists in my state. I realize this is giving away my location, but I don't give enough fucks, really. My state actually successfully taxed rain.
What?
Seattle?
No.
California?
No, Maryland, actually.
Really? Wow.
How do
Really?
you tax rain?
How do you tax?
Here's how.
Who's the bill footer to? Do you send the bill to the heavens?
Here's how. Runoff from driveways and roads get into the rivers, that feed into the Chesapeake Bay, and it's killing the fish.
It's turning the fish dead.
Yeah, it's turning the fish dead. Literally.
Is it turning the fish gay?
No, just
That
dead.
I don't know.
Okay, what type
They're
of
killing
runoff?
the fish, but can you eat the fish later?
What type of
I
runoff are
don't
we
know.
talking about? Is it just the asphalt and the chemicals on the roadways, or what?
Chemicals on the roadways, stuff from farms, stuff on yards, basically anything that runs.
Instead of taxing it, why don't they propose diverting that water to water filtration plants, and then basically the sewage plants, and then put it in the bay?
No,
Here's
too
the thing.
hard.
The tax is going towards environmental agencies in the state.
What will
Too
they
hard.
do?
It's too hard to do that. And plus, kind of like the Flint thing is geoengineering.
Well, also, the Flint thing, the water can be set on fire. That famous video. Yeah, it turns out that is a natural cause that caused that, not fracking.
No, it was the lead in the water, the levels of the lead in the water. It's kind of like the asbestos thing. It was just,
Well, I mean,
The water-
lead does naturally exist in water, but what caused it? Have they found the actual cause?
No, I don't know. I actually haven't followed it. I do know we had a problem in my city and state. Pretty much the same ideal thing. It was in our public schools. So, of course, if it's in the schools, it's in the state.
Well, actually, funnily enough, an interesting thing that I know about asbestos, we're kind of getting lost in some weeds here, but one of the most dangerous things you can do with asbestos is rip it out of walls. Yes.
Spread the
Yeah,
spores.
and spread it everywhere. But unfortunately, it needs to be done in some cases because if that asbestos gets damaged, it's just as bad. So
Yep,
it's a
that
catch-22.
rabbit hole.
But yeah,
Okay. I think, guys, we're approaching an hour. So
we actually just
should
passed
we-
it 2 minutes ago.
Okay, so should we start to wrap things up?
It's a little past Christmas, but sure, I'll start wrapping things up.
Sorry?
It's a little past Christmas, but sure, I can wrap a few things up. Terrible
It's a
joke
bit
is
early for
terrible.
next year.
Terrible joke is terrible.
I think it's kind of late for everybody.
Or
Well,
early in some
I
cases.
want to leave us on is while this whole stream's been going on, I've designated myself the Twitter guy, just keeping an eye on Twitter while we're doing this, just looking for anything interesting that could be brought up in the stream.
And now
So-
to our Twitter correspondent, Spart.
Well, we got a tweet from the lovely and best tranny ever, Blair White. Apparently, who's tweeting out images from other trannies and LGBTWXYZ P90X people.
Carried it too.
Basically, the whole thing that heterosexuality is unnatural.
The Animal Kingdom called. The entire Animal Kingdom
The
called.
only purpose for heterosexuality is procreation. There's nothing good that comes out of it.
I mean,
And even then, heterosexuality isn't needed because
Science.
non-cisgender people can procreate too.
that is
Spontaneously.
That is the fall of
apparently
that is
they're
the
like a
fall of
fungus.
Rome, ladies
You
and
can
gentlemen.
lop a part of them off, and they'll just grow another one. I mean,
That is the fall of Rome, ladies and gentlemen. When you start getting into the Orwellian language and touching children, then you know your civilization is pretty much doomed.
No, it's okay because we all know that we can reproduce by fission.
by fission.
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 Splitting
Yeah.
in two.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, on that happy note,
Yeah.
thank you all for
Way to
partaking.
wrap it up, you know, as
Praise Kek, free Kekistan. We demand our land back north of the Black Sea, bordering on the Alps, the Swiss Alps. We demand that land back.
And all the way around as well.
Yes.